After sending 10 million cold emails, I've seen what works and what gets instantly flagged as a spammer. And in this video, I'm going to break down exactly all of the steps if you're looking to get higher reply rates, fewer bounce rates, and more book meetings for your business. So stay tuned. I'm going to show you exactly what is working nowadays and what is not working nowadays. So before I get into the deeper strategies, let me just give you one fix that will instantly boost your deliverability. And that is going to be actually very simple. If you're using any reseller cold email accounts, that would be websites that sell you cold email accounts for cheaper than what Google and Microsoft are selling you, move away from those. And I'll tell you why. The moment that we stopped using reseller accounts and moved over to well-diversified, well-created Google and Microsoft accounts, we got over 10% of a boost in reply rates for some of our clients. Now, let me explain why that is important in the first place. And I'll actually give you a good analogy to think through this is imagine if you were moving into a new building, right? So you're moving into an apartment in a new building. And you book the place, you got everything ready, signed the contract, you're good. And you get there and you realize that your neighbors are perhaps smoking illegal substances, or they are playing music way too loud, and overall there are drugs in the building, and it's not a very good environment. All of a sudden, this place becomes a place where it's not spoken as well of in the city. And what happens is when you're buying accounts from resellers, it's the exact same thing. You're dependent on the reputation of everyone else they let in the building. Everyone else they let use their admin panels when they're reselling these accounts. And although I know they can refresh their admin panels, and sometimes you can find good resellers that will actually get you good accounts, you are in the churn and burn game. And what we found is the churn and burn game is actually more expensive than just getting vanilla accounts in the first place, which is why this is something I'm recommending here. If you're setting up your email accounts, make sure you're setting them up with major ESPs. That would be Google, that would be Microsoft, and you know what? Fun enough, that would be even Amazon. I know it's one that a lot of people have disregarded already because it's hard to set up, but we have found very great success with using Amazon accounts. There's even some ESPs out there that are very not known for cold email, and they're great for cold email, which I'll tell you more about later on in this video. So stay tuned to that, but let's talk about the most important thing when it comes to cold email. Start avoiding gimmicks. The number one thing that we're seeing people do is they rely on all sorts of gimmicks to make their cold email campaigns work. They are trying to change their tracking settings. They're trying to spend less on email accounts and get more email accounts. They're trying to use this crazy panels that all of a sudden create accounts automatically, and they're trying to save time that way. And all that they're finding is that they're having to churn and burn more accounts. Their cold email campaigns start performing, and all of a sudden they stop performing again after a week. If that's something that you face, it's very likely because of the setup that you have created, and I'll show you how you can create a better setup instead. So let's get into some recommendations. Number one, we are finding that 2 email accounts per domain is a very good number. There is no set rule on this. We have clients with 5 email accounts per domain. But what we have found is that once those domains start getting some sort of issue due to high bounce rates, due to high disconnects, due to high spam complaints, those 5 accounts tend to get shut down all at once. And therefore, what we'd like to do is be more diversified, be safer, and just set up 2 email accounts per domain. And that is what I'm recommending you to do as well. So that is recommendation number 1. Now, here's the caveat. This is where most people go wrong when they go and set up their 2 email accounts per domain. They get one admin panel, and to be honest, this is something we used to recommend 3 years ago, but we no longer recommend. Times have changed. They go ahead and they set up 10 email accounts in one admin panel. Admin panel, just to be clear, is the panel you create on Google and Microsoft when you're purchasing accounts. It's where you buy the licenses. And these people are going ahead and buying 10 licenses or more in one panel. And the problem with that is that it's clearly showing that you are a spammer, that you're doing what is called snowshoeing. Snowshoeing is spreading your weight across a big board in order to avoid getting caught, right? But everything is in one admin panel. It's very clear and easy to see that those are cold outbound campaigns because all 10 of those will be sending very similar copy every single day, and they all redirect to the same place. Well, that's a little bit odd. So make sure that you're setting up one admin panel, one domain, 2 email accounts. And for those, something we're going to talk about in a second, you'll want to make sure that you're getting diversified identities. So let's get into that. Diversified identities are very, very simple, actually. So what they mean is that, and let me select it right here, they don't really give away the fact that you are behind all of the cold email campaigns that you have. So they don't all point directly towards you. And that starts from the very beginning when you're just getting started with the browser, the IP, and overall the settings that you're using that could help Google and Microsoft identify it's you behind all of your campaigns. Now, I understand that this feels like a criminal system. Like, wow, we are diversifying our identities. We are going off track here. And this is not something that was supposed to be because I care about brand identity, for example. Let's say you're someone who has already built a big brand. You already are known in the industry and you're already reluctant to use burner domains that are not your primary domain. Well, one thing I'm going to tell you is that the reason why you have to do that is because you are a spammer. And the reason why you're a spammer is because by the definition, you're sending emails in bulk and these emails are unsolicited. These are sales emails. And therefore, you have to find a way to create a big board, a bunch of identities to send all of these emails so it doesn't look like you're sending emails in bulk. You see what I'm saying? That is our goal here. We want to create a big board of accounts that are not tied to one another. They cannot, and by they, I mean Google, Microsoft, they cannot see that we have a lot of email accounts used for the purpose of sending unsolicited emails, right? There are tricks I'm going to tell in this video on how we make the copy not appear like it's being sent unsolicited. But unfortunately, that's the game. You're either in or you're out. If you want to send from your primary domain, well, go use ActiveCampaign and MailChimp and send branded campaigns to people that have opted in. But if you want to send cold outbound on email, you will have to abide by these rules. Else, you'll be always leaving some money on the table. And let me tell you what else you're going to need. So coming back to this criminal system, as some people like to call it, we will need number one, mobile proxies. Mobile proxies are the easiest way to diversify your IP, right? You can set mobile proxies to pretty much any city in the US, in the UK, and any other major country. And you can use that address to then go ahead and create accounts. You mimic as if you are in that location. Here's the caveat. You want that location to be the same location as your billing address. We want to show Google and Microsoft honest signals when we're setting up email accounts in a vanilla manner. Those accounts, $7 per month or $6 per month if you're on Google. No discounts, no trying to get around that. That's not the way to go about it. We're getting real accounts, full price, and we're setting them up properly with diversified identities. And so we're going to set up our mobile proxy to the location of our credit cards. Now, credit cards. Make sure you have multiple credit cards to diversify your identities. I strongly suggest that if you're a big organization that you go ahead, take the multiple banks that you already work with, get one virtual credit card from each, put a spending cap on each of them, and use those to set up your accounts. How many credit cards? I recommend one credit card for up to 10 email accounts. That is going to be sufficient. We haven't found any issues with using that setup. Now, the next thing is you're going to need an anti-detect browser. You cannot just give away that it's you behind all of these accounts because your browser right now has cache, and it's got a lot of cookies. And it's very easy to identify that it's you behind this computer. And therefore, we need to diversify your browser. But setting up another Chrome doesn't really solve the problem. So what we need to do instead is use an anti-detect browser such as AdsPower, such as Incognition, such as GoLogin, right? The one that we recommend the most right now is AdsPower. It's the one that's working the absolute best, but that might change. Which brings me into the next point, which is if you want to see our current tech stack, the tools that we're recommending, make sure you comment down below. Just comment anything. Just say, hey, I want a tech stack, and I'll DM that to you. Okay, I'll send you the exact tools that we're using right now. This changes all the time. I cannot just put it in the description because this keeps on changing ongoing. Okay, but make sure you have anti-detect browsers. The next step is you need to make sure you have real phone numbers. A lot of cold emailers are now defaulting into the easy answer of just going to tools online that just create these temporary numbers using those, but those are played out because those numbers, they come from a specific block of numbers that are easy to track down and are easy to find the vendor for those numbers. And those literally reduce your reputation as a cold email sender, which means that if you want to set up an account Google and Microsoft with those phone numbers, they may just block you after the first day. If that's something you experience, that's probably why that happened. Okay? Now next, let's get into the next topic. Essential configurations. This is the basic stuff, the stuff that you probably already seen online on Twitter, on LinkedIn, or even on articles, etc. Very simple. Number one, DNS records, SPF, DKIM, DMARC, and custom tracking domain. I'm not going to explain these too much in depth. You can just Google them. They're very easy to set up. They're copy-paste records that you're going to put in your domain and be easy to go. They're just authentications to show that you're not illegally using a domain or that your domains might be phished. Okay? Very simple. Next, you really need real profile pictures with no metadata. Very simple. Go to Google, search how to remove metadata from pictures. There's going to be an online tool. Go ahead, upload your pictures in there, download them with no metadata, and that is what you upload into your profiles. Why? Because else, you've probably already seen this if you have an iPhone or even Androids, I believe, have this feature as well. You go to a picture, you click on information, and you can see where the picture was taken, the camera, the time, everything about this picture. That is what you're uploading into Google and Microsoft when you're setting up an email account, and that can track you down. Now, again, I know this sounds like a criminal system. but we got to follow through. We got to make sure nothing traces back to one person. And that is why we use real profile pictures, no metadata. Why real pictures, not AI generated? Because yes, AI generated will reduce your trustworthiness score with Google and Microsoft, especially if you're just generating them cheaply online. Okay. Now, last thing, if you're setting up all of this, the last thing you want to make sure points directly to one place is the domain redirect. I see a lot of companies, they go ahead, they create this big panel of domains, redirect them all to one place and think it's fine. No, it is not necessarily. It could be fine if you have a very high engagement rate, but if you don't, it's better to be protected against it. You can just use tools that will mass redirects. Again, I'm not going to mention tool names because these change all the time. We keep on testing new ones and we're always trying to keep an edge in the market. So comment down below. I'll DM you the tools that we're using. There is no cost attached. I'm not going to pitch you anything. Just DM me and I'll send you the tools that we're using. Okay. Extremely important. Now, just to finish this off, setting up your technical infrastructure correctly is essential for ensuring that cold emails reach their intended recipients and actually achieve optimal engagement. If you skip this step, well, you're just throwing a lot of money in the toilet. And that is exactly and precisely what you're doing. So I strongly suggest that you follow exactly what we talked about in this video so far and set up your accounts right. No more resellers, no more private infrastructures, none of that stuff. Vanilla accounts right now are exactly what is performing the absolute best. Now, let's move on from that. Let's start talking about warm-up strategies and setting the stage for success. And to start off, think about all of these email accounts that you have set up in vanilla servers from Google and Microsoft. These accounts were created the proper way. They all look good. They have diversified identities. They have human-like behavior. They look very, very legit. Now, I want you to think like this inbox, like a new bank account that you have just created. Like, think about it this way. If you suddenly just take out a huge loan, let's say you send out 10,000 emails out of this account out of nowhere, the bank will flag you as risky. It's very simple. It's that simple. But if you build trust with small transactions over time and you pay your bills, you increase your limit of how much you can be sending, right? Email warm-up works the exact same way. You need to just build your limit very slowly. And that is why we use warm-up. But here's the problem, the big catch. Most people set up the warm-up or a warm-up system the first time, and they forget about it once it's already reached a good score. It's like as if you paid all of the small transactions, you paid all of the bills consistently on time, and you build a great credit score, and now you just start ruining it by just buying big things, not paying the bills on time, having a bunch of issues with vendors, having a bunch of chargebacks and whatnot, right? And this is what happens with most people's email accounts. They just set them up once, let them warm up, they keep the warm-up settings as default, and they keep on sending, right? And the problem with that is very, very simple to understand. The moment that you start sending cold emails, you will inevitably get a lower reply rate unless you're personalizing every single email that you're sending than what you used to get in the warm-up. And so your perceived reputation with Google and Microsoft went down, right? It's as if you're like a bank just noticed, hey, they are not just paying on time anymore. Now that they're just sending big numbers, something happened. And so here's a big catch on how we fix that. It's actually very simple. We just have to use what we call a Seesaw warm-up technique. A Seesaw warm-up technique is very simple to understand. If you're going to send emails in the campaign, you're going to keep sending emails in the warm-up at a lower rate. So instead of sending, let's say, 50 emails in the campaign, you're going to send 25 in the campaign, 25 in the warm-up, and if you need to send more volume, you got to get more email accounts. Now, here's another catch. You're not going to only send 25 emails in the warm-up for the sake of sending volume. It doesn't matter how many transactions you get going through. It matters how many of those you pay, and you pay on time. And in the warm-up, what matters the most is the reply rate that's coming through on the email account. So, for example, if you warmed up your email account for the first time with 50 emails per day, 30% reply rate, once you launch a campaign, you need to keep that 30% reply rate. If you get 2% reply rate from the campaign, the 25 emails you're sending, you need to get the remaining reply rate coming out of the warm-up. So for example, out of 50 emails per day, 30% would be 15 replies per day. If you're getting 1 or 2 from the campaign per day, you need 13 from the warm-up. So you put the reply rate on the 25 emails per day that you're sending at around 50%. Understand what I'm saying? That is exactly the Seesaw method. That is how you maintain your accounts for a very long time. That's how you avoid a lot of unnecessary flags, and you avoid having to churn and burn accounts, lose money, increase your cost per acquisition, and overall just destroy your whole machine. Extremely important. I kid you not, most people fail at this because they just have no idea that the warm-up had that much impact into their email accounts. And then they say things even like, warm-up doesn't matter. Well, it does matter if you know how to do it right. Okay? And just once again, this is a big mistake, is just once and for all, setting up your warm-up, forgetting about it, and thinking that it's fine, okay? Let's get to the next one. Now that you're launching campaigns, here's something to think about. Email service providers like Google and Microsoft, they're looking for a sudden change in tone in the copywriting that gets sent out because they're looking for fraud. They're looking for emails that got phished, for emails that got hijacked, and that are now all of a sudden sending different types of content. And so they will be monitoring every email that you send out just for a look in that sudden change in the tone. So whenever you go from warm-up emails to sending campaign emails, you need to ramp that up slowly so you don't get a lot of spam complaints all at once. And that way, you don't burn your cold email accounts. Because once again, we already know burning cold email accounts is expensive. It takes time. It takes money. It just makes everything a lot more confusing for your team to manage, and it's not worth it. So therefore, here's what I want you to do. If you want to ramp up our copy to 25 emails per day of sending a campaign, we're going to start at 5, 10, 15, 25. Right? We're not going to just all of a sudden push 25 the first time they warm up our accounts, right? It's not the way to go about it. We need to increase it gradually to avoid a lot of spikes in spam complaints. And that's how we make sure our copy stays on for a longer time. And not only because we send lower volume, but because we ramped it up slowly, okay? And that's extremely important. Now let's get to the next one. A well-executed warm-up strategy makes sure your email accounts are primed for sending high volumes of cold email without being flagged as spam. Maximize the reach of your campaign. It's extremely important that you follow this. Please don't skip this step. Now let's get into more fun stuff, okay? Some of the more fun stuff. First of all, you gotta clean your data if you want better results with cold email. This is non-negotiable. And I wanna actually give you a scenario to run in your mind. Imagine walking to Costco, okay? You get into a wholesale supermarket and you grab a giant pack of avocados, right? It's cheap, you got tons of variety, but then you get home and half of them are rotten. What happens is the exact same if you're scraping data out of databases, right? You get bulk contacts. They are very cheap, right? They usually are not verified. But then you're stuck with outdated emails a lot of times. And what would be the database I'm referring to? That would be Apollo. Sometimes that would even be ZoomInfo. That would be Crunchbase. That would be BuiltWith. That would be all of these big databases out there. And the problem with using just databases is that, again, like Costco, you don't know what is the freshness of what you're purchasing. And therefore, here's the solution. Use all of these tools, but have AI scrub out all of the bad data. It's that simple. Right? So we're going to use AI to remove all of the bad data. Let me give you some examples. When you scrape data out of Apollo, you will find, and I'm not picking on Apollo. Apollo is just one of the examples, and there's nothing wrong because their pricing structure reflects the type of data that you're getting, which is good. They are a very cheap source. We use them a lot as well. Now, you always got to pair it with AI checks. Number one is going to be on the company. Does the domain still exist? Second, does the domain still have MX records? MX records are DNS records that allow you to receive cold emails in the first place. If you don't have them, it's as if you don't have an address in a post mail that you're sending. It's not going to go anywhere. Now, that is on the company. On the people side, you got to check, is this person not retired? Are they still working inside this company? And are they the right person for me to talk to? Because a lot of times you search for CEOs and you get assistants of CEOs, right? And that's not the right person you want to contact. So you got to check for that. So you're going to have AI. Go in, perform all of those checks. If you're curious about how you make that happen, those are automations that we run on NIDN and on Clay nowadays. Both of them, one for our new teams, they just use Clay because it's very easy to use. For our scout teams that track millions of leads per month, those are using NIDN. NIDN is a platform just like Zapier, if you're familiar with automation tools, that just allows you to do bulk processing for a very cost-effective manner. Now, if you want to know more about how to do that, leave a comment down below. Just say automations, and I can record another video just showing you all of the automations, right? Or you can contact me in DMs if you don't want to leave a comment on YouTube. Both ways are completely fine, okay? But let me know. And the next thing is you got to remove toxic emails. I see a lot of companies have deliverability issues. They come to us and they're asking us for a lot of miracle solutions. And although they feel like they're doing everything right, I check their lead list and I find a lot of toxic emails in there. What would be an example of a toxic email? Since we run so many cold email campaigns and sometimes we have overlapping industries that we reach out to, we get to see the people that are the most annoying, the ones that reply the meanest, the ones that report to the most as spammers. And it's kind of a trend. There are certain people that just hate cold email and they report anything you send them. And there are databases like out there, such as the one from Email Industries, that track these people. And just by removing them, you now avoided a whole bunch of trouble. And you know what's the best part? It's extremely cheap to remove them. And also accomplish email validation at the same time. So the tool that we recommend to use to get that benefit is use Bouncer. We used to use Million Verifier for the longest time. they don't have access to those toxic emails, and we found some trouble with those. So therefore, now we started using Use Bouncer, and it's been completely fine. Now, again, I'm mentioning it too on this video. This might change in a month. So if you want to know the current tools we're using, you already know what to do. But make sure you're removing all of the toxic emails. It's extremely important. Because one thing to know as well is that toxic emails, just toxic emails on their own, they can act like agents against your emails. They can be the ones that are reporting you as spammer, destroying your reputation, the same way that bad MX records could do that. What would be an example of a bad MX record? It would be companies that are recruited to literally eliminate spam from big organizations' inbox, right? Let that sink in. These are companies that are literally paid to remove you from your target audience's inbox. These are companies like Mimecast, Barracuda, Spamproof, Proofpoint, Spamhouse, etc. Which, by the way, if you want to reduce spam that comes to your inbox, use them. They're pretty good. But when you're sending emails to them, you got to optimize your strategy around it. There's a specific type of copy that will land when these MX records are checking, or the spam filters are checking all of your campaigns. I can tell you what those are in another video. That could be very interesting as well. But for now, I strongly recommend that you remove all of those MX records from your campaigns and remove all of the toxic emails. Here's the final result of you doing that. You're going to cut half of the bad leads out of your list. You're going to get double engagement just because you cut half of the bad leads that will never engage either way. Now you get less spam complaint rates and better deliverability, which means you get more sales calls, you get more opportunities to close people, you get more opportunities to grow your business, make more money, pay people better, and keep on making a bigger impact in the market. Okay? Let's get to the next one. Now we're going to talk about crafting the perfect cold email, right? And first thing that we're going to talk about is subject lines. Why? Let me put it this way. Cold email is exactly like phishing. It is the exact same thing. Imagine you open an inbox, you see 20 emails in there in the morning. Just open the inbox, 20 emails in there. What makes you click in one over the others? That's right. It's the subject line and it's the preview. And most people literally look at the content of their emails more than they look at the first initial sentences in this email. That's wrong. So if your subject lines don't grab attention, your email never even gets read. And that's just a fact, right? It just looks like a bad book cover that gets ignored on the shelf every single time. Now, I'll give you another way to think about it. Imagine you're at a networking event. Someone walks up and instantly pitches you without knowing a single thing about your business. It's annoying, right? That's exactly what happens when your first line isn't relevant. Like your email doesn't hook them in the first 2 seconds, you're just deleted. That's just something you're going to have to deal with. And if they're not reading it, there is no deal, there's no response, there is just wasted effort, okay? And it becomes pretty expensive if you do it that way. So here's how we craft a very good subject line. First of all, we got to keep them short, personalized, avoid anything that looks like email marketing, and then we're gonna have first lines that are gonna matter a lot more. So how do we accomplish that? Let me give you some examples. A lot of people talk about just sending quick question first name. Although that's not a bad subject line, it's quite played out. So what I recommend instead is using first name hook. So first name, whatever you're trying to do. Don't tell them directly. That's not the right approach to it. But you could say thoughts on this first name. You could say first name, there is something on your website. First name, still at company name. You could do all those sorts of subject lines that feel very organic. They don't feel like they were email marketed. They don't feel like they have a catch to them. Although at the same time, they're not misleading. You don't want to do things such as urgent first name or open this first name or just purchase from you first name. Things that are misleading. You don't want to do that. But you do want to personalize with first name or company name. Ideally first name. It performs better overall based on all of our data from sending for so long. And you want to avoid anything that looks like email marketing. Don't go with ChatGPT generated subject lines, please. Now, next, relevancy is key. You got to ensure relevancy by chunking up and down to tailor your message to the recipient's specific needs and interests. Now, I got to give credit where credit is due. And this is a concept that I have actually learned the term behind it from Eric Nobolowski. By the way, strongly recommend to check out his channel. He's very good with tools like Clay. He's very good with overall outbound, and he sent a lot of volume as well. Now he's the one that actually put a name to this. We've been doing this for a while as well. And it's very simple. The idea of chunking up and down is just, are you going to broaden your copywriting to talk more about the final benefit? Or are you going to narrow your copy and talk more about the mechanism that delivers this offer? I'll give you an example. Let's say you're selling SEO, okay, to lawyers. Chunking up your offer would be you send an email that's such as the following. Hey, first name, are you bringing in more cases right now? Because if so, I may have a way to get you 6 to 10 more every single month. That is chunking up your copy. You're only talking about the final benefit. There is no explanation of how you're going to do it. There is nothing else. It's just, hey, do you need this or do you have this pain point? Chunking down would be, instead of saying, do you just want more cases? You're going to say, because I believe that with your current authority, you could get a lot of benefits from, number one, bringing your subdomain where your blogs are to the primary domain. Number two, getting featured in publishers such as 1, 2, and 3. Number three, getting backlinks from sources such as 1, 2, and 3 podcast. Does it make sense that we show you some more alternatives and fun ideas on how you could get better results with cold email, right? So you see what I'm saying here? Or sorry, with SEO, not with cold email again. So you see what I'm saying here? It's very relevant, right? And depending on the person that you're targeting, one is going to work better than the other. If you're reaching out to owners and founders, they're pretty busy. Chunking up tends to make more sense. If you're reaching out to head of demand, for example, it tends that chunking down will make more sense and you show more competency that way. And that is something you always got to keep in mind. Now, when it comes to relevance, you also got to think about, does this person actually have the need for what I am trying to sell? And the reason why a lot of you guys struggle with deliverability is not necessarily because your offer is bad. It's just that you're reaching out to people that don't want it. And you just got to fix that. And a few ways of fixing that could be, if you start scraping job boards, they're looking to recruit people that do exactly what you do. Companies that just had a trigger event that might signal that they might need your help. Let's say you sell recruiting and you have a company that just went through a big round of churn, or they're going through a big round of growth. Both of those ends could be very helpful if you are a recruiter, right? So look for relevancy points. If you want to know a relevancy point for your specific industry, feel free to comment your industry down below, and I'm going to tell you what works best. Again, I'm not fishing for comments. If you actually want to send me a DM, send me a DM. That's also very fine. And I'm happy to tell you what kind of triggers you could be playing with to improve the relevancy of your offer, which is extremely important. Now, next, always make sure you're split testing, right? If you want to find the best combination of ingredients to make a new recipe, you just got to try them out and you got to see what they taste like. And when it comes to cold email, you got to try different combinations of emails. You got to try different variations, not only for the sake of split testing, but also for the sake of deliverability. Having uniqueness will be directly correlated to the amount of reply rates you're going to get over time. And so you got to maximize your efforts here by one, spin syntaxing, topic of another video if you're curious about, and two, always be split testing different variations of your emails. A lot of companies, they launch one cold email copy, they get some results, they trust that cold email copy that's going to keep on bringing them results forever, and then all of a sudden they get no results and they blame deliverability and they blame cold email and they blame a bunch of other things and they just don't get results. Whilst if they just kept going on split testing their offer, they would have been fine. So make sure you're always split testing your offer. If you want some ideas for structures and what to test, I can share with you some frameworks. There are plenty of frameworks that we test in our company for every single client to see what's going to perform the best. And we never stop on split testing. How we could frame the offer, how we could frame the hook, how we could frame our case studies, how we could even create our signatures is something we're split testing because it does matter. And if you don't have the time to do this yourself, make sure you recruit someone to be in charge of your A/B split test. It does matter that much. Now let's move on. If you're sending emails, you should, in my opinion, based on all of the data from all of the emails we have sent, you should focus on core benefits. So focus on things such as saving time, saving money, making money, reducing risk. Those are the biggest 4 levers that you could pull in order to get better results with your cold email, especially if you're chunking up your offer. So make sure that you're leveraging those to their full extent. Now, also make sure that if you're chunking up your offer, you're replacing spam words and keeping the language very simple under 6th grader level. How do you accomplish that? You can use ChatGPT to help you with that. You can use Hamilton app to figure out what grade level you're at with your language. And in order to replace spam words, you could just use tools such as the one on our website, which I can link down below if you want to see it. Or you just search in Google spam word checker, and you're going to find a few of these tools that will help you accomplish that. Okay? Now, the summary of this is write very compelling, relevant, and benefit-driven emails, right? You just want to grab people's attention, get them to reply, get them to raise their hands. You don't necessarily want their credit card directly on an email because that would require way too much screening and volume to find people that would be willing to do that. So instead, you just want a lot of people to raise their hands. You want a lot of sales opportunities, keep your teams busy, and grow your company. Now, let's move on. How about campaign management? Let's optimize the whole thing for performance. And the main thing here, and it is something I see all the time, is a lot of people send emails, all of a sudden it gets throttled, and their deliverability drops. They send a cold email campaign, they get results, and then it slowly starts dying, right? And here's the solution. Instead, you want to split your send, right? You want to remove, you want to become somewhat of a ninja when it comes to campaign management. You want to become impossible to track. And the way you become impossible to track is you got to mimic natural human behavior. And the way you do that in order to inbox more is by removing patterns from the time of your sending, the buffer you have in between each email that you send out, the accounts that you're using, and the copy that you're sending. So this is number one when it comes to campaign management. From there, if you launch something that's not performing, turn it off. Halt campaigns that are underperforming before they cause too much damage. And I recommend that you do that before they reach 1,000 contacts. Extremely important. Just put someone in your team to do that. It will make a difference. It will prevent your accounts from burning. It will prevent you from having all of these ups and downs in cold email. Just fix the copy. It doesn't take that long. It takes 20 minutes to write new copy, spin syntax the copy, launch the copy if you're doing everything manually. So make sure you're doing that or have someone doing it for you. The next one I already mentioned is adjust your settings. Every time you launch a campaign, use different settings. Use different times of sending during the morning, use different times of sending during the evening, use different minimum waiting times in between each of those campaigns, etc. Variate everything. Become a ninja. You cannot become traceable. It's extremely important. And the last one is something people talk a lot about, which is tracking. Should I track open rates? Should I track link click rates? Honestly, I don't really care too much about tracking open rates. The way I look at it is very simple. Imagine you're throwing a house party and you're sending invite letters out. Do you truly care about how many people open the paper or how many people showed up to the party? I do more on the latter, right? And so I perform the exact same thing called demo. We have a lot of clients that come to us and they sometimes complain, hey, I am not getting the reply rate that I was looking at. And then I break down their lead rate, and their lead rate is extremely healthy and extremely scalable, and they've been hitting their heads against a wall just because of a reply rate number. That's just vanity. It just doesn't really matter if people are opening your emails or even replying sometimes if the lead rate is very healthy, right? A lot of people destroy campaigns that have below 1% reply rates thinking that it's bad when in fact, it's the offer that is bad, but they sometimes already get a very good lead rate. So you got to look at the lead rate more than what the way that you look at the secondary metrics. Look at secondary metrics, optimize, but what matters most is the money that comes through the door and the amount of qualified booked appointments that you're actually getting from your email campaigns. So focus on that, okay? And we disable all tracking. We disable open tracking, link click tracking. We send emails as plain text because that helps with deliverability at scale, and we recommend that you do the same. Now, let's move on. Let's get into some money-making stuff, right? This is extremely important. Appointment setting is where a lot of companies actually fall short big time. I'm not talking a little bit, I'm talking big time, okay? And I already mentioned in this video, a lot of deals are not lost because of the offer. A lot of deals are actually lost because teams give up when they think that the buyer isn't ready, okay? And so I'm going to show you how you stay top of mind without being annoying, okay? Most people think that prospects overall or companies hate follow-ups. That's wrong. They hate bad follow-ups, okay? If you sound sharp, competent, valuable, they will engage, okay? If they're ghosting, that's on you. I just want to make that very clear. And I'll be very honest with you. Most follow-ups that I see, that you guys send me, they suck. The guy that wrote the email sound clueless. You're just not phased when you read that. You're frustrated, and you just want to report them and not get another one, and that's why we want you to do something different, and I'm going to show you how, okay? I wanted to think about follow-ups. I wanted to think about follow-ups like dating. You can't just say first name, Susan, did you see this? Did you see this? Can we go to the movies? If you do that, what happens is you get a block and not a date. And although this is not dating advice, the same applies in cold email. You don't want to be the annoying sales rep that's saying first name, bump. Did you get a chance to see my previous email? Did you get a chance to take a look at this? When can we talk? That is extremely annoying, and you don't want to do that, okay? What you want to do instead is just respect that there is a right time for people to be in the market for your offer. They might be working on an agency right now. They might be too overwhelmed, and that's okay. You want to play around that. You want to follow up with value, and you want to follow pretty much the principles I'm going to share with you here. So let's go through them. Number one, reply quickly. Have you ever contacted a company? Let's say you wanted to go to a dental appointment, or you wanted to go to an embassy and you emailed them, or perhaps you messaged them and they didn't reply. And you're just sitting there wondering, are they even seeing this, or do I have to go there to make sure that someone is going to get my request and I can go through? The same happens when someone replies to your cold emails. They're wondering, are you going to reply promptly, or did you just waste your time? And so companies that reply within the first 10 minutes tend to get a lot more conversations started and a lot more people to follow through their pipeline. Make sure you do that. Here is how. You want to make sure you go on your phone or your sales reps' phones and install instantly or Smart Lead or whatever other cold email sending tool that you have, Quick Mail, Lemlist, etc. And you want to make sure the app for the Unibox, Master Inbox, etc. is installed. So they get a notification as soon as a lead comes in. Lead comes in, reply goes out fast. That is the game. Now, as soon as they don't reply back to you, you got to follow up, but with value. How do you follow up with value? You break down a case study. You share a few ideas. You share a personalized line about what you saw on their website or on their LinkedIn or etc. You want to follow up with something that feels like they're getting something from you. You don't want to share something that feels cheap. You just want to just share a PDF that you think is valuable and they don't actually consider valuable. But instead, you can record them a Loom with a walk through their website and a few ideas on how you could help them perform because of a case study that they have, and you can help them get customers that are similar to them. As an example, okay? So make sure you're following up with value every single time. Or you're going to continue the conversation. So instead of following up with value, you're going to continue where you left off. For example, if I left off my previous email with a call to action such as, let me know if sometime tomorrow or the day after works for you, I'm going to follow up with, by the way, I forgot to mention, you can also book something in my calendar if that's easier for you. Let me know. Thank you. Right? So you can continue the conversation. It doesn't feel like a follow-up. It is a good practice. And now I'll separate winners from losers in cold email. Our winner clients, the ones that book the most amount of calls, the ones that get the most amount of success, the ones that rip the most amount of rewards, or the ones that are engaging multiple platforms. So whenever you get a lead in cold email, you get a reply, you connect them on LinkedIn, you retarget them with meta ads, because if they've been to your website, you need to be retargeting them, and you retarget them with Google display ads. Again, if they've been to your website or Calendly or etc., you need to be retargeting them. And it's very simple to set it up. If you don't know how, Google it. It is that important. Have your team implement it for you. It will make you more money. Okay? Once again, businesses lose deals because they give up on people that they thought weren't ready. And you just gotta reach out to them again. Our recommendation is follow up to 6 times because there are a lot of diminishing returns after that. But follow up to 6 times with 1 to 5 days incremental waiting time in between each email. For example, you reply to the prospect today. They didn't reply. In 2 days, you follow up. Then they didn't reply. In 3 days, you follow up. Then they didn't reply. In 5 days, you follow up. And you follow up to 6 times or until you get a no. And that is the game. Now, let's talk about next steps. What do you do from here now that you've learned all of these things? Number one, make sure that you're actually sending enough volume that these things matter. Volume is crucial. Don't just test with 100 or 500 prospects. You need to think in thousands as the bare minimum, even if your market is small. If it is extremely small, then you should be contacting experts that will help you reach these people. Let me know. Or just make sure you're sending enough volume that you can actually understand what you're looking at. As long as you followed everything that's in this video. Have good accounts, have good lists, it's relevant, scripts are good, call to action is very clear, you're following up, etc. Then optimize your offer. If nothing is working, I'll be very honest with you. Your offer just simply doesn't work for cold audiences. Your offer might be great, it might be fantastic, but for cold audiences, you're going to need something else in the front of the tripwire. And that is how you're going to get people to resonate with it. That's how you're going to get people through the door. If you're sending to organic, it's a completely different game. This is just for you. If you're sending cold outbound, even if you're cold calling, etc. There are specific offers that work for cold prospects and others that don't, or that don't work to a great extent. Okay. And the last one, here is a big recommendation. After this video, go down below, scroll down, open a description, go to the transcript, copy everything I said, give it to ChatGPT 4.0, and ask it to analyze your cold email strategy based on all of the advice I've given you. That's going to save you from the $500 an hour you had to pay me to take a look at your campaigns. And you can just skip the line, get all of the feedback. ChatGPT will understand exactly the things that I'm saying, and if it's going to analyze your campaigns. I hope that helps you. If you're serious about increasing your reply rates, you want to get more meetings, and you want to know the exact setup that I use, just let me know. Comment down below, or send me a DM. Happy to help you, and I'll see you in the next video.